Ancient Egypt, a land of mystique, innovation, and timeless legacies. It was here, in the heart of this enduring civilization, where King Menkaure, known to the Greeks as Mykerinos, took his place in the lineage of the great pharaohs of the Fourth Dynasty during the Old Kingdom. His reign, though shrouded in some mystery, stands out as a fascinating chapter in the story of ancient Egypt. Menkaure was not just a ruler bound by tradition. He was a man who, through his actions and his iconic pyramid, carved his name into history. To understand Menkaure's world, we must first step back and look at the era into which he was born. He inherited the throne likely in the 26th century BC, following in the footsteps of his father, Pharaoh Khafre, and his grandfather, Pharaoh Khufu, the builder of the Great Pyramid of Giza. These were titans of the Fourth Dynasty, an era marked by monumental construction, centralized power, and a culture deeply intertwined with the divine. Menkaure was tasked not just with maintaining the grandeur of his forebears, but with leaving his own mark on the sands of time. Menkaure's reign is most famously associated with his pyramid, the third and smallest of the three great pyramids on the Giza plateau. But don't let its size fool you. This pyramid was built with a distinctly personal touch. Unlike the massive stone blocks used by his predecessors, Menkaure's pyramid was partly sheathed in granite, a material far harder to work with, showcasing immense dedication and craftsmanship. Its smaller scale symbolizes a departure from the overwhelming grandeur of the past and perhaps offers insight into a shift in the pharaoh's priorities. Some historians speculate that Menkaure's focus on more intricate artistry reflects a reign that prioritized quality over sheer scale, a reign centered on balance and refinement. Beyond his pyramid, Menkaure's reign invites us to delve deeper into the political and cultural dynamics of the period. As a pharaoh, Menkaure held absolute power, but his governance may have leaned more toward compassion compared to his predecessors. Ancient Greek historian Herodotus, writing long after Menkaure's time, paints an image of him as a just and benevolent ruler. Herodotus claims that Menkaure showed more clemency and fairness in his laws, a stark contrast to the more authoritative rule of his father, Khafre. Whether this account is entirely accurate or romanticized is up for debate, but it suggests that Menkaure was seen as a pharaoh who cared deeply for his people. Menkaure's leadership also reflects broader changes in Egyptian society during the Fourth Dynasty. The Old Kingdom was a time of extraordinary centralization, but by Menkaure's reign, cracks in this foundation may have been starting to show. While we lack detailed records of significant military campaigns under Menkaure, this does not mean that his reign was devoid of challenges. Rulers of the Old Kingdom had to contend with issues such as maintaining control over vast regions, ensuring a stable economy, and upholding the divine authority of the pharaoh. Religious beliefs, after all, were central to the authority of an Egyptian king. Pharaohs were not merely rulers, they were considered living gods, intermediaries between the people and the divine. Menkaure took this role seriously, and this is reflected in the statues of him that survive to this day. These pieces of art, often depicting him alongside the goddess Hathor and various regional deities, reveal a striking image of a ruler who sought harmony between earthly and divine realms. One of the most famous of these statues is the triad sculpture of Menkaure, Hathor, and a gnome goddess, now housed in the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. This triad is a masterpiece of Egyptian artistry, showing the pharaoh as a calm and confident figure, standing in the traditional pose of kingship. The statue not only underscores his divine status, but also suggests an effort to unify Egypt's many local cultures and beliefs. It hints at a reign that aimed to consolidate ties between the central government and the provinces, ensuring stability in a land as vast and diverse as ancient Egypt. The lack of military records from Menkaure's reign can be interpreted in a few ways. Some historians argue that the absence of grand campaigns and conquests suggests that Menkaure presided over a relatively peaceful period. This absence of external conflict may have allowed him to focus on internal development, cultural advancements, and religious endeavors. However, other scholars point out that the lack of records could simply be due to lost documentation over the millennia, leaving us with limited insight into what Menkaure's military or geopolitical strategies might have been. Throughout his reign, Menkaure was bound to the Egyptian belief in Ma'at, a concept representing balance, truth, and cosmic order. The pharaoh was seen as the upholder of Ma'at, responsible for maintaining harmony not just among his people, but across the known world. Whether through his policies, his pyramid, or his religious deeds, Menkaure sought to fulfill this sacred duty. And yet, even the greatest rulers cannot escape the grip of mortality. Menkaure's death marked both the end of his reign and the continuation of the challenges that faced his successors. Surprisingly, Menkaure left his pyramid unfinished, a detail that has puzzled historians for generations. It is believed that his sudden death interrupted the construction, forcing his heir, possibly Shepseskaf, to complete it, albeit in a simpler fashion. This raises questions about the state of the kingdom at the time of Menkaure's passing. Was it a stable transition, or did his death signal a decline? Interestingly, Menkaure's legacy endured not just through his pyramid or the statues bearing his likeness, but through the stories and perceptions of those who came after him. As Greek and Roman travelers recorded their impressions of ancient Egypt centuries later, they immortalized Menkaure as a figure of justice and benevolence. Whether this was based on historical fact or born out of admiration for his monuments, it stands as a testament to his enduring presence in the cultural memory of the ancient world. Menkaure's reign, while not as extensively documented as some of his predecessors or successors, symbolized an evolving Egypt, a kingdom that balanced tradition with innovation, grandeur with humanity. His physical contributions to the landscape, his pyramid, his statues, are lasting reminders of a king who sought to bridge the earthly and divine, who aimed to uphold the ideals of Ma'at in a complex and changing world. As we gaze upon the Pyramid of Menkaure today, its granite casing glinting under the Egyptian sun, we see it not as a diminished monument, but as a symbol of sophistication and intent. It whispers the story of a ruler who followed giants and yet still left his own unique footprint on history's grand stage. Menkaure was not simply a pharaoh with a pyramid. He was a man whose reign reflects both the glory and the weight of leading a civilization as iconic as ancient Egypt. So, the next time you look at the Giza plateau, let your eyes wander to the smallest pyramid. For in its shadow lies the legacy of a king who, though his reign may have been shorter and his monument smaller, still stands tall in the annals of history. King Menkaure, the builder, the harmonizer, the man who reminded us that sometimes the smallest symbols carry the grandest stories.